Hello, and welcome to Wise Women Wednesdays here on YouTube, and also now a podcast on wisdom speakers and seekers. I am so excited to be here. My name is Jennifer Regular, and I'm your host. I am also a soul-centered empowerment coach with Lighting the Path. On Wise Women Wednesdays, we bring women from around the world who inspire us, who share their experience, their vulnerabilities, and their strength, and their gifts to humanity. And I'm so excited today to welcome Kathy Basil from Denver, Colorado. Welcome, Kathy.
Hello, and I'm so happy to be right here at the start of your podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's so exciting. Kathy is a transformational life coach. She's an energy healer and also the creator of the Vitality Code. She works with women ready to break free from the fear and unworthiness, keeping them stuck and unable to live fully in their soulful next chapter. She guides her clients turn their past pain into their power and achieve quantum leaps toward what they truly desire. Her joy is watching women create beyond what they ever thought was possible. More joy, vitality, self-love, connection, meaning, and abundance in every regard. On a personal note, Kathy embodies vitality and living agelessly. With the Colorado lifestyle of mountain biking, hiking, camping, skiing, and loving her amazing wonder dog, Kiefer. She's here to talk to us today about the call of the divine feminine, 5 shifts into the personal power. Welcome again, Kathy.
Thank you so much. And it's so fun when like-minded soul sisters come together. I can't wait to see where our conversation takes us.
Absolutely. And the divine feminine. What is that, Kathy, and how did you become passionate about it?
Yeah, so the divine feminine is something, it's a calling that's happening right now. Just like that shift between, there's a pendulum that shifts between science and spirituality. There's also a shift that's happening, a new paradigm that's coming in from the masculine to the feminine. And I wish it were called something different because it's not a gender thing at all. It's a way of being. But I can tell you, this is the time of the woman. You know, the Dalai Lama said that the world will be set, but as Western women, it's us when we step into that divine feminine, the way that we are calibrated to be. And we've spent far too long. We did a great job surviving in a masculine world that's a lot about that outside, stress and struggle to make things happen and success in a terminology that just didn't really resonate for us. So as our shifts happen with the pandemic, everything's coming up. It's like, oh, what a great time for us to take those broken pieces and put together a mosaic that's in alignment with our divine feminine, the way we're called to be right now.
So. And how did that alignment come about for you, Kathy? I imagine you've probably been through a bit of a journey yourself to really come into that alignment. Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah. And I love how you said it's a journey, because us ladies, we're on a journey of becoming. We're becoming more of who we came here to be. So this masculine, we thought we had to show up in a certain way, to be the good employee or the good wife or the good mom. And now it's time for us to calibrate. So my journey, and I don't know if you've ever had that day when everything changed, you get a call or something happens and your life's never going to be the same. Mm-hmm. For me, it was the day that I got a call from the hospital saying that my mom, who had been my pinup girl for ageless living, she had everything. We were living in Naples, Florida. She had great friends, great work. She played golf and tennis all the time. So she was just ageless. And at the age of 65, she probably would have continued to work quite some time. She had a stroke and lost the left side of her body, the use of the left side.
Oh, that's so interesting, because that's actually our feminine side, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. And it's fascinating. So I wish I had the lens that I have now to have experienced that journey, because I certainly did not. But that's exactly what happens is you go into the medical world and it's not a good place to go if you want to heal. and that's what happened. So we had all the different specialists. So it was like a full-time job going from one specialist to the next. We got neurologists and the GPs and the other people. And then she wasn't moving as much, not drinking the way she once did, because it was hard for her to get around. So repeated urinary tract infections. And so they like to give you antibiotics. And like, okay, antibiotic, like sounds like anti-life to me. I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I also didn't know that I had the right to question what the doctors were saying. So ultimately, over time, repeatedly showing up in these doctors' offices, it's not getting better. I'm watching my mom, Miss Ageless Living, Shirley, her dwindle. And I'm like, I could see, I'm like, it's not her body that's dying, it's her soul that's dying. And I'll never forget standing in a doctor's office one time, back again, right? And he looks at me and he says, just face it, your mom's got chronic disease. And I'm like, you peckerhead.
Yeah.
um,
Put
and
it
I'm like,
mildly.
yeah. And I'm like, what? And I think this is the lesson for all of us. There's this generic label that's put on something that's blocking us. Chronic, I think we've got a lot of chronic conditions right now. She
Mm.
was told she had chronic disease, but it didn't really mean anything to me. So that became my quest. And unfortunately, stronger antibiotics kill your immune system. She was in the hospital one time, got MRSA, which is a virus rampant in hospitals, and she passed away. So that was the spark. And again, ladies, the thing that is your darkest day sometimes becomes your biggest impetus to become what it is that you're here to do, the difference you're here to make. So, heed these things, these messages in life. So it was fascinating because I thought, okay, well, I know beyond a shadow of doubt that our bodies are miraculous. Like God gave us, our heart is pumping, there's blood like going everywhere it needs to go. I'm breathing. I don't have to think about this. I know that our bodies can heal when we give them what they need. And so the rational first stop was to become a holistic wellness coach. And I did, and I appreciate that. And yet, even though I was taking a mind, body, spirit approach to it, it was still, people are looking to make lifestyle changes, but it's the behaviors. Like oftentimes we know what to do, but doing it sometimes can be a different story. So like what's underneath? Why is it so hard for us to make change? So I kept digging and trying to understand. I did some studies with Tony Robbins. I'm a big change fan. I think he's one of the best in the world for lasting transformation. I don't want to like go on a diet and see somebody next year and they've got the weight back. It's like, no. I know when we align with who we came to be, we get back on track and you're off to the races. We don't have to visit this conversation again. So that's when I discovered energy work and really began to understand that oftentimes it's those old emotional, the stuff in the subconscious that's ticking around in there. And the origin of a lot of that stuff is back in those childhood days up until the age of 7 or 8. It could be other times. We have traumas that haven't been resolved regardless of where they've been picked up. But I'm fascinated by the little, I call them the peas under the mattress that we all have from those days, because our little brains, they're not mature enough to discern like, oh, mom was having a bad day that day, so she snapped at me to get me to shut up. So instead of me knowing that mom was having a bad day, we take on, I'm a bad girl, and we take on coping mechanisms. So it's okay, I'm going to be a good girl. I'm going to be quiet. It's not safe to show up as the big crazy me that I am. I'm going to get the good grades. I'm going to become the perfectionist. I'm going to, do the things to make sure that my folks still aren't going to leave me out on the corner. Right. So it's these coping mechanisms that we used as a kid, and they've served us for many years, but those are many years ago. And we get to repack today. It's 2022. We get to decide, does this pattern still serve me? Or like you, is it time for us to use our voice now? Maybe we were chatty Cathy's when we were kids. Use that gift, bring it to the world, because the voice needs to be heard. So many women have this yearning to own our voice. We have something important to say. We have something the world needs right now. And I urge you, if you have that inkling, do whatever you need to do to honor your calling, because that's the purposeful life that we are all longing to step into right now.
And it's such an interesting paradox, Kathy. I don't know if you agree that we yearn to be seen and heard, and yet we fear it at the same time, And I love the example you gave from childhood, because you can see from that example how our beliefs affect our identity. that actually shape our identity, and our identity shapes our beliefs, and we can really get stuck in those patterns if we're not aware of them.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But as we grow up and we have other conditioning and other ideas, and we start to open our minds and our hearts and our bodies more, but like you say, it needs more. There needs to be more, because we're a whole person. There's so many hidden aspects that must be Keeper there.
That's my crazy dog doing his job. I just love this. This is such a great conversation, because just like you said, it becomes our identity. So we don't even have the ability to step outside of ourselves to see, oh, wait, I'm still using perfectionist, and that was mine. My childhood story was, the crummy dad that was a cheater that went away, and when I was 7, and lots of financial struggle because my mom trying to support 4 kids, so there was lots of story. There was lots of reason to push against that, to have non-trust and abandonment issues. And it's like, so we've made up coping mechanisms, which were great. They've served us. I became a meeting planner, and man, I was great at perfectly having all those details nailed down and knowing rationally how to get from here to there. And so it helped us excel in our chosen paths up until now. And what I'm saying is this day, the world is requiring us, is desiring us to step up and use our voices. So it's just an identity that got us from here up until now. So when you cast that vision of where I want to take my life now, and you've got this yearning and you give that voice, you allow that to bubble up, like you said, we are programmed to fear it, but recognizing that that's really just a societal programming to help us kind of, be fit in with the family initially, fit in to the schoolroom, and, sit there, take the notes and not really zip it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Now we're out of school, we're out of those roles, and now a lot of these roles are ready to be turned upside down. So.
And you talk about the call of the divine feminine. So how do we hear that call? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? And how can we follow the call?
Yeah, I believe the calling is within us, and whether you hear it or not, that's a whole different story. So it's kind of like the pilot light, right? That's not going away. You were born with that. So it's burning, baby. The secret is, so this is one of my favorite things. As I was preparing the 5 shifts, I came across the list of 5 top regrets of the dying. And tell me if this first one, I just love the way this is worded. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
The courage to live a life true to yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And so women, we've been cultured, our society has taught us there's certain roles and certain ways in which we're to show up, and we use those lens. We tend to choose to show up the way we think other people desire us to be. And I know that was certainly me in my marriage. I thought I needed to be the good wife, and I don't know where that prescription came from, that it looks like this, that, and the other thing, but it certainly wasn't what brought my soul. So here's, kind of the message of my mom watching her dwindle. Her soul was dying. Same kind of thing. Slowly over time, our soul is eroding, because our soul came to express in a certain creative way. Yes. And it doesn't have to be some big grandiose mission in life. I think sometimes we're looking for purpose, and we're thinking it's going to be, to set sail and discover America or something. It's not, no. It might
someone already did that.
That's right. It might be just, kind of being open-hearted and listening to neighbors, or finding a community that struggle with something that you've already been through, addiction, or just loneliness, or there's lots of need out there. So yes. Trust me, your life matters. We are all interconnected, and you've standing up and finding who it is that you're to be. But essentially, going back and reviewing your life, so much of that we knew as kids, what do you want to be when you grew up? Revisiting some of that stuff, taking away the hurt. And I'll take people through processes to basically do a life review from a different way, not seeking to necessarily heal it. We don't change it. What we do is look at the message. What was your soul calling for? I believe we came down and we had our each one of our souls is unique. It's got its own little blueprint, but it's like the a little thing they say, I prayed to God, I wanted patience, and he gave me traffic, all the bumps and bruises are perfectly, all those obstacles, all the rotten dads, all the rotten lovers, that we've had over time. Each one of those was an opportunity like to sharpen. There is no diamond without the pressure. So each one of those is truly a gift. And when you go back and pick out like 5 of the top defining moments, if you will, when your life kind of took a turn and you took a decision or you left the relationship, whatever those were, look at the things that look like struggles to you and ask, what was my soul yearning for at that point in time? It's like, you know what? My path was a lot about learning to voice that my feelings are safe to be expressed whenever. They're always safe. They're always safe. So for me to find my voice, oftentimes I was in situations that were traffic. So it was through contrast. So we embrace the contrast, get that message. And so I do energy healing to release a lot of the emotional stuff. Our emotions are just like people. They just want to be seen, heard, and understood. And we're so lucky to live now because consciousness is rising. We can let go of like the old karmic ties and all the stuff that used to be so heavy and you had to, sit for years in therapy. We don't have to go back and in that logical process, do that. Allow the feeling. It was suppressed because we didn't allow ourselves to feel it, but we didn't allow that. It's not our fault. Society told us you're weak if you're feeling emotions, right? So
yeah, where did that come from? Yeah, it's always good to trace the source of that information. Where did that belief come from?
It
that
came from
emotions
my sister.
are weak. It came from your sister. So everyone who experiences that, it came from your sister.
Right. They sing that song, "Big Girls Don't Cry." And I was like 5, and until I cried. So yeah, it was not good. I still don't cry. But I do allow myself to feel things now because they're always, emotions, motion is energy in motion. So it's really just a signal. It's like the precursor. And if we don't recognize what the message is and we stuff that down, the message gets louder and louder until we hear it. It'll manifest in the physical. Our bodies oftentimes will begin to give us symptoms. And the word symptom is actually, the etymology goes back to the word signal. So your body's trying to talk to us all the time to let you know there's something out of balance here. Hey, the guy's a narcissist. You wonder why your back hurts. It's because your back is representing financial support. You're worried if you can support yourself without this. So bodies are amazing. And oftentimes when you understand what's underneath the messaging of the body, it's quite literal and it's fascinating. And when you get the message, a big one right now, the cancers, oftentimes it's core of self-love. Society has told us it's better to give than receive. What if we get to do both? And it begins, all healing begins with self-love. It's about holing. Healing equals holing. And so when we pull back those splintered parts of ourselves, all those pieces and parts of ourselves we cut off over the years because we didn't think they fit in with society's view of the way we thought we had to be, bring that back right now. Bring that back to whole. You are whole. You are whole. We just need to bring it back into the wholeness. And it's amazing the healing that can happen rapidly when you get that. Allow yourself to receive that self-love for yourself first. And then we get to give in a different way. We get to still be the caretakers that we naturally are, but we do it first by filling our own loving cup. And then you serve from the overflow. And then it's an endless supply for everyone. We don't caretake to the point that we've diminished our own life's like blood energy, it's depleted. So that's what happens a lot, women in their 40s and they got the kids out the door. Now they're just like flatlined. They're trying to eat better and they're trying to exercise to get some energy. And it's like, that ain't what's sucking the energy right now. It's all that critical, tickies in the back of the head that
right.
unload that. We get to refresh and it can happen so quickly. So
yeah, you mentioned that there were 5 shifts to personal power. So
Yeah.
how can, then we can use that to really not lose our soul, right?
Yeah,
And to
yeah.
really
So as
step
I go
into
through
our power.
these,
So tell us, how do we do it? What are the 5
and as
shifts?
I run through these, think about in your own situation,
Mhm.
everyone listening here, because you're here to on a quest. So I know
A
that about you.
quest. All right.
Yes. And it's kind of like an Easter egg. So when we think of the masculine, again, it's kind of an outward orientation where success comes by being strong and struggle and pushing through, no pain, no gain kind of a mindset. The divine feminine is actually more of an inward way. So instead of the do in order to have so you can be, it's flipped on its head. So what if you just being you, amazing, gifted woman that you are, be first so that you can have the things, you can do the things and have all you desire. We get to have it all in a way that is from a receivership rather than the doing ship, right? So,
Mm.
for people, think of all the ways in which you've been struggling to make something happen and it's still not happening. So do this on the left-hand side of a piece of paper, write down the things of I'm done pushing to make such and such happen. And then declare on the right-hand side, I'm choosing ease and joy around abundance. I'm going to align with the feminine flow of prosperity. Nature is abundant. That's what we want to get back to. We've separated ourselves so far from nature that we're not allowing an abundant flow like that. So that's
Right.
the first one.
So on the left side, we're doing I'm done with. And then on the right side, I choose. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because we've got the answers within us. What's been the biggest disappointment this year? Think about what that felt like and what was the lesson in that, and declare that on the right hand side. I choose, I'm stepping into this now. This is me. We get to make up all these stories. Like nothing has meaning other than the meaning we give it. Make up the story that works for you. I am this now. So the second one is kind of a logical, linear process. That's the masculine. And trust me, I lived there for a long time because I was a perfectionist. I did a really good job. And again, I had a meeting planning, I was doing event marketing and all that. I had all the T's crossed before there even was a T, right? So all that yearning for perfection and that outward orientation of linear and logical. So the divine feminine is actually birthed from within. So instead of outwardly looking for the proof and the circumstances, all the timelines and budgets, we get to intuit from listening, dialing into our GPS. I call it the God placement system. So we do that by turning down the craziness with a little bit of practice with maybe a little meditation. And if you're not a meditator, walking in nature or whatever, dancing, yoga, whatever it is, to silence the voices so that the heart can speak. Do you know the heart math? There's great science around this now,
Yeah.
that the heart is actually 1,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain is. And here we are trying to be so smart, figured it out up here. How much wouldn't you like to be 1,000 times stronger? That's a power move. Come from the heart, girls. The calling is there if you tune in and allow that to
Yeah. And you actually made that motion, Kathy, about dropping from the head into the heart, right? Dropping from the head into the heart.
Yeah. So I wonder, listeners, like, where have you been trying to get smart about it? And what have you been putting aside because it just didn't seem logical or rational right now? And so that's kind of related to the next shift is just trying to control the situation from the outside. And the pandemic's been so awesome for this. I just loved watching
because it has been fun to watch, actually.
On the outside, there's some people that need to be in control. And that's because we fear that if we're out of control, if we're going to be at the effect of the circumstances around us, which just isn't true. And I think we're 2 years in, people are kind of getting that by now, but just think about all those ways that we're trying to seek control. And again, the guideposts now, we're seeking to create a future society that doesn't exist, because the one that exists right now, it's falling apart. The major forms and structure,
Yeah,
the
we either
government, the
evolve,
healthcare, the
dissolve, or
education.
revolve, right? And
Yes.
we get to choose, which direction, which
Yeah.
trajectory we're going to take.
And how lucky are we? We're path, the way showers. We get to create a society that works on behalf of all. And so what does that look like? We're not going to find that with proof on the outside, right? We get to intuit, we get to listen, we get to follow the calling. And sometimes callings are not rational. In fact, you I know you got a story about that. Have you made a choice that you're just like, this does not make sense, but I can't say no?
Yeah, it does. And what you're saying too reminds me of what Abraham Lincoln had said, that the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yeah. That
Right.
just
And
gave me
here's the
shivers.
chance, here's the reminder again. And we've learned that over and over and over again. And we'll keep learning it until we actually get it. Right. And we start implementing that change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that you say it that way about getting it and implementing the change, because I believe the conversation has come, we just had Martin Luther King here in the United States, and I love his, I have a dream. So to me, the way he positioned that, he wasn't fighting against what is, now, because that takes your vital life energy. We want to spend that get masterful at focusing on only what it is that we want to create. So he didn't say, talk about the injustices of the day, the inequalities, all the violence. He had a vision. The vision was a day when his kids could sit and they'd be shoulder to shoulder with others that were judged by the quality of their character, not by the color of their skin. So what's the equivalent for you? What is the vision? And we all kind of have our own little flavor. For me, it's about women's empowerment. Other people are called to health. Other people you've got your interests. What is the vision? If all this just fell away today and you got, your magic wand, your queen for the day, what's that vision for you? What would you say if you were standing at Lincoln Memorial giving your speech?
Well, if I had a magic wand, I would reawaken the wonder of life, just coming back to that, the reverence, and, just for everybody to stand up in just like the work that you're doing, right? Being connected on their soul path and really step into their most empowered way of being so that we can harmonize into a global coherence.
Ooh,
Yeah, that would be my vision.
I love that vision. Awesome. So awesome. Yeah. So, and then there's an inherent, the shift again from the masculine to the feminine. Masculine is oftentimes we're looking externally. So relating it to my mom's story, the external authority that we were looking to was the medical world and the people in the white coats. So how many ways are we giving our power away to a story outside of us, an authority outside of us? This is about the divine feminine is an opportunity for you to own your inner authority. There is no one who can tell you, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad, other than the way you choose it for yourself. So what do you know to be your personal truth? So if someone's inviting you to go for a particular healing journey and that doesn't feel right to you, seek more information, dig a little deeper, and find what else might be included in your formula. I don't mean to, the medical world has its, I embrace that. I'm all about inclusive. So we're going to use some of that, but I need to include a couple of pieces from this piece here too. So trust your knowing. Trust your knowing is the biggest thing. And what if I think a lot of us seekers we love learning. And at some point in time, you get to own your expertise. You've been on a journey for a long time. You've been studying whatever your particular interest is. You own your expertise and begin to shine that into the world. Because it's time. It's time.
You get to own your story, and you also get to own fully who you are, your sovereign being, right? And so to really own that, and that's what sets you apart as well, because no one, as people have similar stories, but no one has the same story that you do, and be able to offer what you are for the way that you do it, right? Because that comes from your soul essence, is how that transmits through whatever it is you're doing, whether you're bagging groceries or you're a CEO at a firm or someone on the street that's just smiling at the walker-bys and putting their hat out that maybe you'll, spare some change. But it's all how we transmit our soul through whatever it is that we're doing, right? How we show up. Yeah.
And I love how you pointed that out. When I do the emotional release work, the three biggest blocks that we have, and this is, we all think we're the only one who has the unworthy thing,
Right.
But unworthiness, unlovable, and it's not safe. And so just recognize that those are old stories that got implanted, and you can probably go back to the origin. And here's the other thing, is often the origin isn't in our lifetime. It might have been something we absorbed from parents. It might be generational. So we can go back now, generations deep, and go back and heal some of these old wounds.
Right.
So the worthiness, I just want to get back to how you said, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And one of my favorite people of all times was a janitor that I met at college, and he did his world in such pride and with such a gift to the, to this day, he is still one of the favorite people I've met in my entire life. Wow. Because of the pride he took at the role he was playing in the, it doesn't have to be the grandiose outward thing. What are you showing up as, and how is your beingness emanating from whatever it is that you choose to do? Right. What if you could amplify that tenfold and just shine on.
And for those who might be taking some notes here, when we mentioned 5 shifts, where are we at? Can you recap that for us?
So, we talked about the kind of like the competition of the outward doing, the flipping it to be, do, have. We had the rational. Oftentimes our calling is not going to look so rational. So to be able to use those external guideposts, so tapping into the intuition, and then we were just talking about the shift into the owning our worthiness. And so the final one, let's see, I've got so many. It's just such a beautiful time for us to do this. But and the fourth one that we just talked about was kind of like owning the vision, like the Martin Luther King. What's your vision? And then honestly, just, gosh, which one do I want to share? It's just our time, ladies. It's our time. And so we are ageless. The vitality code is that it's not a physical thing. Like, I want all of us to be ageless. And we do that when we orient from our purpose point, from when you begin to step in and put this into motion, whoever you are, and living into whatever this purpose calling is on your life, you are going to be ageless. And so whatever stories we're hearing from the outside about, the things we need to do, the way aging looks like, too young, too old, like any of those judgments, for us to set that aside and just know you are divinely appointed at this moment in time to, you have everything you need within you now to go out and be the champion for whatever is on your heart space. The world needs that special light that only you have.
You have everything you need within you. I love that. And you actually have a free gift for the audience today as well. You mentioned there was a life designer, or like, tell us about that.
So I call it your big, bold, beautiful life planner. And so one of the biggest things, and it strikes me how many people are not clear on what it is that they want. If we want to, the law of attraction, ask and it is given. We want to be clear on what we ask. And if your ask isn't clear, you're not going to get exactly what you want. You're going to have done that one a few times. So the Big Bold Beautiful Life Planner is just some questions that are going to help you tease out what it is that's really calling you. So we talked about the divine feminine calling. It's going to help you identify what your calling is, and help you to recognize, oh yeah, I was using that old story and I don't need to use that one anymore. So kind of like we did now, let's get super clear on what it is that you do want, and And you'll know when you ask the right question, the answers are within of what the next best steps are. So it's a great tool to get you heading in the right direction.
Fantastic, Kathy. And what's the website that people can find that?
It's thevitalitycode.com.
Perfect. That's great. And I'll have the links at the bottom for everybody too. And there's also a Facebook group. I'll put the link to where you can engage more if you like. And is there any other final words of wisdom you'd like to share with us, Kathy? Any other?
I just get
your amazing gifts. You are a gift.
This is so awesome because we're soul sister friends, and there's lots of other soul sister friends that are here to love and uplift one another. And this collaborative effort is all part of that feminine shift. That no, it's not about scarcity and competition anymore. There is abundance. So if you're closing down, just ask, what am I holding on to that feels like it's scarce, and just recalibrate. Go for a walk outside. Nature is abundant. And I love the quote from Marianne Williamson. It's not, we fear that we're not enough, but it's our greatness. But I love how she continues that when you choose for yourself, you actually are giving others permission to do the same. And so that's the notion. I would like to think of us as a big sistership, and you stepping up and having the courage meaning of the heart, to follow your heart. You're giving your sister permission to do the same. And her heart's desiring the same thing, but we've kind of got this collective cloak that's been holding us down. So you be the way shower, take the leap, and we are infinitely supportive. When you're aligned with that soul, man, you are going to be well taken care of. So just shine, such a shine.
Thank you so much for shining for us today, Kathy. And all you soul sisters out there, thank you for watching. And we'll see you all again next week on Wise Women Wednesdays. Bye for now.
Bye.